Welcome into the Bleav in Commanders podcast, part of the Bleav Network. Scott Jackson, usually with Anthony Armstrong, not here today, but we got a big-time guest to fill his shoes. That is Ian Rapoport from NFL Network, their senior insider. You can also see Ian on television, weeknights, 7 o'clock Eastern on the Insiders on NFL Network. He's all over your socials as well. And Ian, thanks for joining us here on Bleav Network. How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Excellent. We appreciate your time. Want to remind folks to please like, comment, and follow us wherever you find your better podcast. Well, great timing because we had lined this up, and we're going to obviously talk about Terry McLaurin and his situation. But then last night, bam, Von Miller signs with this team. He announces it on his Instagram with a picture of him in a Commanders jersey. What was the market like, Ian, for Von Miller, and how much of a pull is this for the Commanders to get this veteran to come to them?
Yeah, well, first of all, Von Miller is awesome as a person, as a teammate. I mean, he is the kind of guy that players feed off of, the kind of guy who can be kind of an example in the locker room. He has been through it. He has won. He has lost. He has done all of the things. For a Commanders team that is, probably better now than anyone possibly thought they were going to be. Let's say if you'd gone back a year ago. Getting that one maybe final piece to kind of sort of put you over the hump, I think that helps, and Von Miller is a good candidate to do that. We have still not yet seen the contract. I don't expect it to be very expensive. I don't expect it to be a lot. I'm sure there'll be some upside, but, at this point in his career, considering what he's accomplished, I think it's fair to say an up and down year last year with the Buffalo Bills, probably not a heavy lift. Just someone who was looking for a really good contending team to come in, contribute right away, and help them win.
Yeah, and there's a need for pass rushers for this Commanders team. I mean, obviously Fowler had a great year last year, goes back to Dallas. So there seemed to be a void there. So there was some expectation something would happen there, and obviously the relationship, with Adam Peters, Dan Quinn seems to really get the best out of these veterans, as we've seen here in this early tenure in Washington. But I think you nailed it. I mean, thinking about just 2 years ago, heck, even before last season, when they got Bobby Wagner, that was kind of a big deal, and Ertz. And then, people were like, well, maybe these guys don't have much left to contribute, but obviously both had very good years. But it does seem to say something, maybe send a message through the league that people believe that this Commanders team, no pun intended, can be a real contender still.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you, again, like if you went into last year, you're like, what would you expect? I would say like competing to make the playoffs would have been probably a stretch in my mind. But, when you have good leadership, when you have good players, when you have a team that all competes and tries to get every single person just a little bit better, you can have that kind of collective rise up. I think that's what we saw from the Commanders, and, helps to have a quarterback. Helps to have a really good young quarterback that everybody believes in. And, I think every year you're trying to find like, all right, who is that team that is going to play a little over their heads, is going to be better than anyone realized, and before you know it, they're going to be in the playoffs. And it was the Commanders last year. I don't know who it's going to be this year, but that's kind of what everyone's trying to replicate. But then I think for Washington, now it's like you're not surprising anyone. The schedule's tougher. Everyone knows who you are and is going to try to beat you. Like, how can you kind of respond when you're in just sort of a different place in the league,
Yeah, definitely a different year. And it's been funny to hear Dan Quinn talk this offseason when people said, you're the hunted. And he quickly spins it and said, no. We are always the hunters in this situation. But you're right. There's obviously tons of expectations here on this team. And one of the expectations, Ian, was, of course, that Terry McLaurin was going to get a long-term deal this offseason, potentially. Adam Peters, I guess it was the league owners meeting, said he's somebody who wanted here for a long time to come. But clearly they haven't gotten very far. Terry voiced his frustration and disappointment this week. Obviously a lot to come still when they see the team report next week to camp with the veterans, if he's there, and how he handles it. But what are you hearing? Where's the divide, and how big of a divide is it right now?
Well, I think it's really just they just have not agreed on value yet. I think it's both sides are clear that they want to be there together. They want to, see this through for many more years to come. Third contracts are tough, right? I mean, he's obviously older. You look at, let's say, like Garrett Wilson, like, all right, Garrett Wilson's getting 32 and a half a year. That's a great deal. Maybe that's something that could help Terry McLaurin. And I think it definitely helped him, as far as like making the case. Terry McLaurin's a lot older. These are not, apples to apples. I'm sure he's going to want over 30 million. A lot of the really good receivers are sort of, using that benchmark now. We'll see if he gets there. I do Bleav it's something that will get done, because when you have two sides that want to move forward together, a lot of times you figure out a way to get the deal done. I just know they aren't quite there just yet.
We're here with Ian Rapoport, NFL Network Senior Insider. You can see him on the Insiders weeknights, 7 o'clock Eastern on NFL Network. One of the things that Terry revealed the other day when he addressed the media at that event was that they have not had any, back and forth with the Commanders since, OTA's minicamp. And that seemed to be the thing that's frustrated him. Some people will write that off as just, hey, they're just doing business. This is just part of a tactic. How do you kind of read that? And how do people around the league read that when they hear things as other teams, as you mentioned, other deals are getting done right now, and these two sides apparently have not communicated for a period of time?
Well, believe it or not, it's actually more normal than abnormal. Like, it's July 17th. There'll be some negotiations, but camp isn't going to be around for another week for a lot of these teams. There's always a couple deals that happen before camp, but generally not a ton. A lot of time it's the start of camp, or it's, a player holds in, then he gets on the field, and then the deal gets done, or right up against the start of the season. Like, these are all sort of little deadlines. Like, I'm not kind of put off by, Washington not talking to Terry in the summer. Usually that's when everybody's away. I know he wants a deal. Definitely get it. You want it sooner rather than later. I do Bleav that there's a good chance it gets done, but it's not abnormal to not have really talked over the course of the summer.
Very good. One of the things that has also been wondered by a lot in the fan base and in the media in DC is because this is Adam Peters' first go around as the GM, right? And this is year 2 of it. How is he going to handle this? Is his first huge negotiation, very public, and we saw it with the 49ers where they would have guys going into camp unhappy or holding out or holding in, and eventually they did get done before the start of the season. Do you wonder if that's kind of in the back of his mind, or how he does negotiate, or is he taking the Patriot way from, his days with Belichick? He was obviously in Denver before that. I mean, I don't know. How do you kind of read when you have a first-time GM and you got one of these really public negotiations and trying to read how they're going to handle these things and maybe kind of set the stage for future big negotiations?
Well, you're right. I mean, the 49ers have taken deals right up to the start of the season. And I think you saw this year a change in the way the 49ers did things. Like, we do not want those distractions. We're going to get them done early. And I think a lot of teams are kind of finding that it helps if you get it done early. I would think that's what the Commanders would like. But if you're not there with negotiations, you're not there yet. These things sometimes kind of take on a life of their own, and they go where they go. I do not expect Adam Peters to engage at all. Like, it might be public from Terry McLaurin's standpoint, but I would expect the Commanders to sort of take the high road. And, I mean, as far as I can tell, Adam Peters does not talk very much to the media. I know he doesn't like a lot out there. I would expect his side, the Commander side, to be very quiet, and hopefully for all sides to get this thing done.
We're again here with Ian Rapoport, NFL Senior Insider for NFL Network. You can check him out on the Insider, 7 o'clock on NFL Network Eastern weekdays. Joining us here on the Bleav in Commanders podcast, Scott Jackson. Anthony Armstrong out today, part of the Bleav Network. Give us a like, comment, or follow. I got to ask you a big picture question about some of the weird things we've seen this offseason with these second-round picks. What do you make of it? Like, this year, all of a sudden, we've had this really slow second-round signing period. It seems like people are taking a stand from the player side of it. Is this going to become a norm? How do you kind of read it with these, guys looking for full guarantees in the second round now?
Yeah, I mean, this has always been, on these new rookie deals, not new, it's been around for a while now, but on the latest rookie deals, there's not a ton to negotiate, right? Like there's not a ton to negotiate. You can talk about offset language, you can talk about when the bonuses are paid, but really the last fight is sort of how much percentage of guaranteed money. And, it used to be, by the end of the first round, maybe that was the battleground. And then it was like early second round. And now, like, each of these second rounders is trying to, each of the second rounders is trying to get as much guaranteed money as they can. My guess is in the next day or so, it'll be, a lot of these guys will be sorted out. We've already seen a deal last night. There was another deal this morning. I would say you want as much guaranteed money as you can. You want as big a percentage as you can. I think agents want it so they can be like, look what I negotiated for my guy. In the end, like, I don't know how much of it matters. Like if you're paying a guy, all the guarantees, but 100 that like that's, I don't know that any of this matters too much, enough to like cause a holdout, but there's always a little bit of a different battleground as you get closer, as you get deeper into the draft.
Well, you mentioned the word holdout, and certainly that's something, wait and see here in Washington if that happens to Terry McLaurin. You also have big-name players like T.J. Watt, obviously, looking for a new deal. Trey Hendrickson, that's been dragging out for a while as well with the Cincinnati Bengals. What do you anticipate with those, particular situations? Do you think these are going to be guys that are going to be willing to lose that money to get their point across? Do you think we're going to see more of that hold-in route as we've seen or, in years past too?
Yeah, I mean, I hold in has been sort of the route people are going, just because getting fined is not good. Giving money to a team is for no reason is not good. You can make your point without sitting out, but if a guy's mad enough, then he can do it. And I think what's happened a lot of times is if a player gets fined, you sort of rework that fine into the deal, so players usually get made whole anyway. But yeah, we got a couple of them. We got T.J. Watt, we got Trey Hendrickson. There's a couple of these sort of contentious but slightly contentious edge deals. Myles Garrett got a great deal. I think everybody wants to be there, and we'll see how close they can get.
All right, I got to ask you, big picture, NFC East. First of all, they've had this crazy stretch of 20 years now where nobody's repeated as champion since the Eagles did it under Andy Reid for a bunch of years in a row. It still looks like there's a big separation from Philadelphia and everybody else. Do you think finally the Eagles are the ones that break that string of teams not being able to repeat in this division?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really in the prediction business because every team sort of has every season sort of has a mind of its own. I think the NFC East is going to be really, really good, though. I mean, the Cowboys will be a lot better, no doubt. And the Commanders will probably be what they were. Eagles will be just as good, maybe a little bit better. I mean, so, I think and then, we'll see about the Giants, depending on their quarterback play, obviously. But, if the Eagles are going to repeat, for sure, it means they will have earned it because they got a tough road to get there this year.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, you look at the Commanders, and there's been so much buzz about Jayden Daniels, and can he do it again? Is he going to go through the C.J. Stroud sophomore slump, if you will? Even though Stroud and the Texans were still in the playoffs, division winners. It's been interesting to hear this conversation because it wasn't like he just showed up and played like the last 5 weeks of the season. I mean, there was a full season for people to adjust and understand him, and there's the other part of it too, is Cliff Kingsbury and the Commanders don't have to run the exact same scheme as they did this past year. They're going to probably mix some things up too. How do you kind of look at that? And it's pretty fascinating to see how many people are really putting him up like among the best quarterbacks already. Does that feel like, is this just offseason talk, or do you think this is legitimately how people feel around the NFL that played against him and saw him last year?
Yeah, I mean, to me, talking to the people I've spoken with, it really does feel like Jayden is pushing to be like one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL, like top 10, and then how good can he be? It's like doing it again the second year is a challenge. Everyone's going to be coming for you. Everyone's got film. The Commanders are going to have to adjust a little bit scheme-wise just because they know teams have been planning in the offseason to face them. But to me, like, you watch Jayden throw the ball, you see how cool and calm he is under pressure, see how teammates take to him. We'll see how much he runs this year. I think that'll be interesting. Got hit a bunch last year. But to me, like, should be among the really, really good quarterbacks. And, he's only getting better. So I'm curious to see where this goes.
Ian Rapoport, NFL Network Senior Insider. We appreciate your time here on Bleav in Commanders podcast. And again, you can see Ian on the Insiders weeknights, 7 o'clock Eastern on NFL Network. Thank you for your time, Ian. Appreciate your insights.
All right. Thanks for having me, man.